Okay. Let's see. Are we live? Anyone? Hello. Okay. Seems we are. I'll just wait a couple more moments. Verify microphone settings. Oh, the Danny is here. Hello, Danny. Hello, everyone. Pavu control. Good enough, I guess. Okay. The genius. Where? Where are the genius? Okay, so what is all this new stuff about? Is like in the past week I was finishing some of the refactor changes and I just got too much brain power use, so let's do something very simple today. So this particular feature is, let's call it constant time render, and as someone mentioned in the comments above, it's about specifying amount of time you want to render for. And there are two main use cases. In our case, one of them will be the benchmarks for the open data, for example. The issue which we always have is that there is so much variety of the hardware, and some of it is very fast, some of them is very slow, so it's hard to have a single scene which will use a reasonable amount of time on both configurations. So what you can do is render for specific time and calculate average time per sample. But it's also for the movie production, for example, we want to render some previous shots. And of course you can say, hey, render 100 samples, because we know that they fit into the whatever time frame budget we want to. But if you can say, hey, render 10 minutes per frame, then it becomes easier for the TDs and render artists to manage things, and also to give you some safety in regards that if you forget to lower number of samples, or by accident enable square samples, or some shots with motion blur, they can be intrinsically way slower, and depending on how crazy motion blur is there, it could take up to, I don't know, in the past it was up to 10 times slower in specific frames. Being able to time limit that, it just simplifies some things. So without further ado, let's just jump into terminal and see what's what. And hello, Dimitar. Can we say render to 8 p.m.? It's 9 to 5, man. Okay, so let's update Blender real quick. And let's see if Brett committed anything. Okay, merge. Let's see if it can be cleanly merged. There's some modules. And let's verify its building. Also, let's make the font slightly more friendly for stream. And let's verify things build. I was doing some code review before. While it's building, let's check the chat real quick. The multimeter. That's a good one. Would CycleSex improve CPU rendering at all? Hopefully. Some of the ideas we're having in mind is to utilize SMID more, which becomes easier with the split kernel architecture. Okay, so basically with SMID you schedule multiple arrays, like multiple camera arrays, and then what you can do is to use the, I think it's called bucketed array intersection in Imbri, which basically says, hey, there is this many arrays, find all the intersections. And also similar thing is possible with OSL. In OSL, a while back they added support that you give a set of shading points, and then they handle all of them and give you a result. So that's kind of idea of investigating how to speed up CPU. And it's one of the things we want to explore, but it's just like so many other things to do and add and to other improvements. Also, the progressive render, now it's done slightly different because the way how it was implemented before, it was rendering one sample, then updating the render buffers, render another sample, then updating stuff, updating another, rendering another sample. And display update was just so slow and it was hurting performance a lot. What we do now is we say, okay, so render for this many seconds, and what happens underneath is every pixel gets sampled. So basically we schedule different samples of the same pixel, which improves coherency. So we, even as it states currently, we do not expect any performance loss in the CPU rendering, even though it's progressive by the nature. It's still building, so let's see what else is there. How I'm doing? I'm doing great. How about you? Already have improvements on CPU. Not on the performance as far as I know. Maybe I missed something. What cycles become as fast as Eevee? Yeah, about that. It's last Friday, I think I was testing the junk shops in the current Eevee and the current Cycles X, which is not very fair comparison. And the thing I've noticed is, if you do in a viewport, if you do adaptive sampling enable denoising, then Cycles X was actually feeling better to me. So even need some improvements as well. But that's basically the idea. Make cycles as fast as possible, make Eevee as realistic as possible, but they still will live altogether. Cycles external cycles, it's Apache 2 license. Okay, it's almost there. What do you think about cycles variation at least quality to increase performance? This is like in some of the productions, because you always basically in the productions you always hit this stage in the production where you very limited in time and CPU power involved. So sometimes what happens at the studio, we branch Blender and then do some necessary dirty hacks that just to help those productions. So sometimes it's unnecessary evil, but in general, for the final product, that's that's just not really a thing I feel we should be doing. We should be delivering the bestest experience for the general audience, so without asking audience to worry about, hey, what are the volumes I'm rendering, what's the type of the shots I'm rendering. And some of the stuff can be done as the better preset system, so I don't know. And it's always possible to add some hacks and gain performance, but then it will work in some scenes but not in others, and it's just not the product quality we're looking for. Anyway, so it compiled. Let's give it a quick test. Things still work. Do GPU. Oh my god, the GPU rendering. Well, one of the sorry, I cannot pronounce your name. Someone asked, can't we have more biased options for GI approximation, for example? We already have quite some options which will, if you know where they are, you can make rendering way faster. The issue is more like how to make it easier to tweak. And that's why I was mentioning the preset system back in the day, so it should be something, like if you look at the Blender, it should be very easy to set up, like somewhere on the top level option. It's do final production quality or do some of the fast preview renders. So I think it's more important now to create good preset system rather than adding even more options. What graphics IP are you using? In Cycles we're using NVIDIA Optics and Cycles X. When is volumetric support coming? As soon as possible. We also want to have all the things back as quickly as possible. Do you have to rebuild every time you make a change? Usually yes. Otherwise, change is not in the build. What is the loading kernels? It's loading 5 minutes every time I load Blender and render. So loading kernels, well, it a bit depends when you do the. So there are two stages basically, especially if you, well, it's one stage if with CUDA and it's two stages with the optics. And with the OpenCL in 293 it's even more complicated. Basically the kernel is the source code which runs on a GPU, and it needs to be compiled to a specific program mode. And for the official releases we pre-compile CUDA kernels. For the in LTS version the OpenCL needs to be compiled by the driver on every machine, and then the result is cached. But on top of that, if you use optics, it needs to re-optimize some functions for its specific use, and it happens in runtime. It still should cache the result, I believe. So hearing that it's 5 minutes every time, that's a bit worrying. So first time you do fresh install of Blender, or you update Blender, or you change graphics driver, it will re-optimize them, but then it should be cached. And also in the Cycles X we made the optics kernel smaller, so it should be way faster there as well. Anyway, so it compile, it render, it's fine. If we do like commit merge to Cycles X, and then we go do some code. Love cycle sucks. Thank you, Sergey. It's not only me, I do the easy things. Brad does all the interesting things. Oh, maybe it's 50-50, but don't forget to say thanks to Brecht as well. And of course other contributors. Yeah, this gigantic file and the linter complaining. It's the whole team. Yes, the entire Cycles X team. It's like how I like to say, it's like, hey, I drove by to the office to talk to my team. It's like, who is that? It's Brecht. Where can we? So where can we add some time? Also, is there an example of float proper? Oh, there is the float property. Is it possible to make physics, water, particle, smoke on a video card? In theory, yes. There are some of the external projects which try to do the simulations on GPU, but it's not possible to do in cycles. How do I phrase it? Limit render time. Minutes 0 disables. Minimum 0, default 0. How much rocket start the DSCRAM cache system compositor? I'm a strong believer that there is much more of performance related changes you can't do in compositor without going into the cache. So the way I see is the cache system is kind of a bondage on a weak design. So you can do way faster compositor without going to the complexity of cache, because cache is always way less predictable from performance point of view, and it also doesn't really solve things like animation rendering. So I would focus on making compositor core faster. Okay, then he asked, does the new NVIDIA LHR limiter? I hope it does not. If it does, then someone should mail NVIDIA, I guess. Anyway. Oh, that was quick. Something. Okay. Interface is there. Job done, right? Hang it over to the PR department. Move to the next one. Okay. No. Where is my default code thing? No more bothering the devs. Okay. When we do the devs do not do live streams when they don't want to be bothered. Actually, there's a question to all the developers around. Something which always kind of makes me feel weird, because look, like if you do something trivial, right? Like so if you make a comment like calculate sum of A and B, that's kind of over commenting, right? You usually don't do it. So having this one-liner comment saying, hey, viewport performance or profiling, that kind of feels like over commenting as well, but it kind of adds visual separation. Oh, I don't know. You tell me what you think about it. And of course, you can be like split all this in the smaller functions. And someone is poking me here. Okay. Just a quick detour. Sorry, guys, girls. Just checking if there is some emergency going on. Okay, I'm back. Shadow termination fix. Well, there are a few issues with it, but what exactly are you referring to? Also, parameters. Don't touch this or nothing else works. Yeah. So does it compile? Oops. Always go to the wrong scene. Is Cycle 6 gonna support OpenCL? Unlikely. But I guess you're more worried about hardware support, and we do want to support all the current hardware which is relying on OpenCL. Okay, it compiles. Okay, let's continue coding then. One of them was sentence faster, hence the X. Good one. Okay. In folder. Set samples. No, it's not render time, it's time limit, wasn't it? Yeah, set. I'm lost. Lost in time. Render time limit working? Not yet, but we're working on it. Also, why IntelliSense doesn't work? Like in 2021, how hard it is to make it work? Are the older GPU ever gonna be supported? GTX 550. To my knowledge, this GPU is discontinued by the drivers a long time ago, and we cannot support hardware which does not have drivers. Okay. Okay, UT775 asks about the wireframe node. It will complicate the kernel somewhat, but it should be still within the reasons. The bigger problem is the performance and the memory usage. So it needs some extra data, so hopefully it can be quite minimal, like 1 bit per edge, ideally. But I don't know, it sounds like someone needs to look into it and see what is missing and what will be the penalty. Oh hey, MS-DOS, yes, can someone port Blender to OS2, please? Okay, let's close all the files we don't immediately need. I think we need this one. Okay, Alexander asks, do you know whether GPU module improvements will be included in the incremental release for 293? Unless it's a fix for some bug, I would doubt so. The 293 is about keeping it stable and free from some bad bugs. It's not about backporting new functionality to it. I don't know, can consider calling past trace time limit, but Is there a link for the cycle 6 commits only? Sure, I guess. Let me... No? Yes? So you go to Diffusion, Blender, Branches, Cycles X, History. Oh, but but then it includes all the merge commits. Aww, that's suboptimal. But anyway. So this is as good as I can make it. On a git command line, you can exclude the merge commits. I don't know how to do it in the Fabricator interface. You can click on the graph tab on that link, and that gives you a better idea of what's going on and makes it easier to just scroll and skip things. Okay. I was still compiling. How to start learning coding? I mean, nowadays it's so easy. You just either like use the search engine and search for some simple introductory course, or get a book, and then you learn coding by trying to code something. Okay, still runs. I mean, that's fine. Back to code. So when do we... So... Okay, here's the first thing, because we already have some timings. But if we zoom those, it could be smaller than the actual wall time because of things happening outside. Okay, reset. Is this a G.Blender HQ? Ah? Curious. Well, maybe it should be done differently. Oops. And then reset. Okay. Let's try it. Okay, it's state dot. I want to learn Blender. I have complained about some bugs to the development team. That's not really how we get into the development of Blender. Just complaining doesn't help. Proposing solutions, that's what helps. Okay. Let's set time limit to, I don't know, 0.1 minutes. Huh. Nothing happens. Oh. Okay. Well. Ay. There. But then session. Seconds is easier here. Kind of sync. Okay, let's just go bigger code. In seconds, and then in session we do Vlad is asking how long am I working for Blender? Almost 10 years now. Why so slow? Okay. I set to 6. That's a bit too quick. The Rust, I mean, adding yet extra like, language is a tool, right? So what it is, basically what grants adding an extra build dependency which complicates the build setup scenario for everybody, and which solution doesn't bring. That doesn't work at all. Aye. If it is final, yes, of course. Wow, much activity. Yes, it is better with equal. That's what it should be. And I forgot to show that it was compiling. Although, yay! Reached time limit. Yikes. Okay. Where do I do it? run the work. Okay, I just sent it anyway. I did the wrong thing. Oh, actually, First Agent Scully. Yeah, I know, right? Was not assigned to this department yet. Oi, oi. Oh. Not now. Oh, point F. Oh, it's not const. Who made it const? And nobody thinks ahead. Ay, ay. Wait a minute. Wait, current time minus start time. That's the thing. Wow, a lot of activity. Oh, using Vue here, nice. Just waiting for my compiler. Ah, welcome to the club. Okay, refactor broke something. Cycles X coming in 3.0 or 3.1? Yes. The myth. I don't want to be the myth. The mythical creature. Well, I mean, it all depends on the time schedule and whatnot. It's we are not rushing the cycle X in. Is Vulkan being added? Not in cycles, but then again there are technologies beyond Vulkan and OpenCL. Oh, hi Mike. Okay, render time was started is reached. Wait, what? That doesn't make much sense. Hi, Cybrian. How's it going? Okay, it's compiling actually. Oh! That's stupid. I forgot to call the function. It's okay, why does it never run? It's like, well... because we need to call the function so it's being run. Yes, Victor, there are some. Time limit. Okay. Yeah, the non-Logitech products, many of them. It's the mouse, obviously. Okay. Wait. What is this doing here? What do you mean? I. Okay, fine. Don't mix the string concatenation with happens. Okay, let's try to compile it again. No rendered, yes, no rendered samples. I forgot the new line. Okay. Spectral render, yay! I mean, in the context of faking things, you can also fake it, just render 3 times and use different, like, RGB channels. Is this C or C++? It is C++. And maybe even something like this. Oh, actually, Well, let's verify stuff and then where are my new lines? Is this going to work better? Gee. Most of the work spent putting new lines around for the niceness of the logs. How does it look when I don't use? Okay. Alright. Okay. Okay. Oops. Yeah, that's the patch I need to review. Great Suzanne, please. What's wrong with Suzanne? What's wrong with non-manifold? It's fine. It's perfectly fine. Like the fact that it's not manifold, it's not the biggest thing. It's, let's put some diffuse, right? So it's way more interesting. I cannot choose. How do you... There. it's way more interesting is this area. Like those two adjacent, almost degenerated faces, those cause a lot of interesting things. It's like a lot of geometrical algorithms will fail on these two faces. Anyway, that's a detour. Let's see. Okay. And then if we set to something low. Okay. And then if we do adaptive sampling. Okay. Plain ta-da! Okay. So what are we forgetting? Programming is like alien language to me. Huh? Shnask Gimbatul. Is support denoising currently supporting cycles X? Yes. It is. Cycles X does work on CPU, that is correct. Now, one thing I want... kind of almost tempting to say... Here is the thing. Let's only do the time limit in background. Do we want a time limit in viewport? Like cyclesex flag if the default cube is deleted. Does this allow deletion of default cube? When do you think volumes will be in cyclesex? As soon as possible. Oops. Can someone do the code review for me? Well, it's not only code review, it's also design review. Okay, so it doesn't work on a viewport. It is the full stop. The full stop. Let's lifetime stats how many times you deleted default cube. Oh man. And one thing, it's like the crazy thought is, like, Blender is on Steam, right? Steam has SDK. Let's not go into all those GPL things, but you could in theory have achievements like, hey, you deleted default cube for 1,000 times. Aye. What did I just do? Solo climbing. Oh, come on, you can totally solo climb. Probably even I can. Shouldn't be that hard. Oh. Okay, now. Check this out. This will not work. Yes. Okay. And this is because num samples to path trace. Num samples per update. Okay, let's try. put it somewhere. Where is this used? Jesus. That's... Hey Sibrin, how do you like the verbosity of the function? Function name, should I say. Oh no, it's... Where do I fit that? I need to add clamping somewhere. No, hold up. Hold up. So time limit. Okay, let's see if this compiles. Which it does not. Int double. Oh yeah. Okay, let's see. 605, yeah, close enough. .607, close enough. And if we set it to 0, it should just keep rendering. Okay. Well, as usual, also it's almost time's up. So it's time to make the code review and call it done, I guess. So what am I missing? So use case, multiple big tiles. Okay. Cases. Okay, I think Brett will understand. Let's see. Okay, so this part is done. Floating window of 6. Yes. I mean, that's useful, but that's not something I can do on a stream. Anyway, so let's see if anything important is being discussed in the chat and if hardware shouldn't be plural. Well, you can rephrase it to hardware configurations because then the spell checker passes the test. What's the next detour for cycles? Feature for cycles X. I think Brecht is working on bringing the baking back, and I'm working on pass denoising because that that requires some of the device side refactors to make everything nice and easy to implement. And so basically shadow culture denoising, then in the future maybe a native support for denoising light passes. Do you hire Linux C++ developers? I guess. Change defaults. Is a feature timing per sequence? No, because Cycles doesn't know anything about sequence rendering. It's Blender which says, hey, please render this fragment, please render the next fragment, the next one. So if you want to do it per sequence, then it's kind of easier to do it on a Blender side. What's the difference between constant time rendering and progressive refine? You need progressive refine for the constant time rendering, and the difference is if you do the progressive refine and set number of samples to 1000 and submit to some render farm, you don't really know that it will be, I don't know, limited by 30 seconds per frame. And with the constant time you say, hey, just render samples until you run out of samples to be rendered, or you run out of time budget to use. So anyway, Seems like majority of questions have been tackled. So let's call it done. Let's call it a day. Well, not a day, but call this part done. Call the stream done. I think the Blender today stream will be today, so gives you some time to go and refill your cup of tea and drop to the next stream. Next week, I don't know, we'll implement something else. Not sure what it is yet, but we'll try to keep it exciting. Anyway, so that being said, have a good evening and see you in the future.